In this video, we'll introduce you to LiveRecorder for Java. LiveRecorder is a software failure replay system that captures software failures in a recording, enables replay and analysis of the recording to detect the root cause of the failure, and lets you reverse debug the recording to fix and resolve the issue. Currently, developers can still spend up to 50% of their time debugging. Huge amounts of time can be spent just trying to reproduce the bugs. LiveRecorder delivers a systematic and repeatable workflow in test and production that gives developers a recording of the failure, so no time needs to be spent on reproducing the error. Confidence and certainty that they'll find the problem quickly, and an accelerated pathway to reducing mean time to resolution. In this demo, we'll show you how LiveRecorder works in test with a CI pipeline to record and resolve failing tests and intermittent bugs. Here's a simple Jenkins pipeline that builds an application, runs a set of tests, and, if the tests pass, pushes a release. You'll see some of the tests are failing. 4 of the tests, in fact. This pipeline has been set up with an extra stage where failing tests are rerun under LiveRecorder. And here's the LiveRecorder integration. Jenkins stores logs and other output of its pipeline runs as artifacts. We can see the 4 LiveRecorder recordings of the 4 failing tests stored as Jenkins artifacts. We'll look at replaying recordings in a moment, but first, let's look at another use case example. Sometimes tests fail intermittently, maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 100 runs. People have different names for such tests like flaky, intermittent, or sporadic tests. Other times, stress or soak tests fail reliably, but only after many hours of runtime. Intermittently failing tests are a problem because they're difficult to reproduce, making root cause detection extremely difficult. Meanwhile, these failing tests create noise in your test results and can delay release into production. This Jenkins pipeline has been set up specifically to generate LiveRecorder recordings of intermittently failing tests. Each of a set of known failing tests, here we have 4 tests, is rerun under LiveRecorder until it fails. Recordings of test runs that pass are not saved, but recordings of test runs that fail are stored as Jenkins artifacts. Basically, this pipeline has turned intermittently failing tests into 100% reproducible test cases. Let's download one of these recordings and see how it can be used to diagnose the root cause of the defect. Here's the recording loaded into an IDE. The recording is being replayed on a Linux machine and debugged in JetBrains IntelliJ IDE running on Mac OS. At first glance, this looks like a normal debugging session with local variables, stack frames, etc. But there's an important difference. We're not debugging this program running live, but debugging the recording of the program when it failed in our Jenkins pipeline. There's another difference. Next to the usual step buttons, we have another set of reverse step buttons. I can use these to step backwards in time through the recording. This example shows a program where another thread has come in and modified a list while we were iterating through it. Sometime later, our thread has detected this interference and has thrown a concurrent modification exception. This can be a difficult problem to reliably reproduce, let alone find the root cause, but because we're debugging a recording of the failure, it's 100% reproducible. So let's diagnose what's going wrong. First, we'll go back to where the exception was raised by setting an exception breakpoint. Then running backwards. We're in the Java standard library at the point where the iterable class discovers that another thread has come in and modified it. We can now go back to where that modification actually happened by setting a field watch point on the internal counter. And running backwards again. We're now in the interfering thread. And if we look up the call stack, we found the exact point where it's interfering. We've located the root cause, and with LiveRecorder's powerful reverse debugging capabilities, the problem can be resolved and a fix deployed. LiveRecorder accelerates root cause diagnosis, making the way developers resolve software failures dramatically more efficient and effective. For a demo and questions, please contact us at undo.io.